I once was, in my cold, aloof master's eyes, a once-in-10,000 years cultivation genius. Now she, for the sake of a powerless mortal, took my immortal bones and dug out my immortal core. Even my fiancée and senior disciple Sarah gave her token of love to that mortal. All because the great calamity was approaching, and to protect the sect, Leo, the mortal junior disciple, volunteered to become the heaven's offering. And from that day on, everyone in the sect began to favor him. He said he wanted my spirit fox. Mira, the junior sister I cherished most, while I rested, stole him away and gave him to Leo. He wanted my spirit sword. My fiancée Sarah simply tore it from my hands. Now he says he wants to feel what it's like to have a golden core. And my master, who once loved me dearly, without a word, drove her sword straight into my chest, cutting me open alive to carve out my golden core for him. In the end, they tortured me to death. But they had no idea that the junior disciple they adored would end up destroying them all. On the day Leo was chosen as the heaven's offering, I lay on the ground covered in blood, helplessly feeling my spiritual energy fade away. I couldn't understand it. My master, who had always loved me most, would really, over one careless remark from Leo, cut open my golden core. Clad in white, my cold master glared at me with icy eyes and said, "Leo simply wants your golden core. Why not give it to him?" Mira, the junior sister I always favored, wore a look of disdain. "Serves you right. Leo is about to be sacrificed, and you're still this stingy?" As for my fiancée Sarah, she never once looked at me, even as I died. Her heart and eyes were fixed only on Leo, the junior disciple she cherished above all. Before I had even drawn my last breath, they threw me into the demon's pit. My body was devoured by demonic beasts, my soul torn into pieces, body and spirit both destroyed. They wanted to make sure I could never be reborn. A boundless hatred surged through my heart. If I ever got another life, I would repay them in kind and show no mercy. When I opened my eyes again, the first thing I saw was Leo's wronged expression. "Kai, I was just thinking, since the sacrifice is coming soon, I've never known what it feels like to have a spirit pet. If you don't agree, Kai, I won't force you." Hearing these all too familiar words, I felt disoriented for a moment, but then it hit me instantly. I had been reborn. Reborn on the very day Leo, the disciple with no spirit root, had just been chosen as the heaven's offering. In my past life, he had said the exact same words, asking for my spirit pet, Bai. Naturally, I refused. Bai was the spirit fox who had grown up with me since childhood. Though he was a spirit pet, he felt more like a friend. But Mira, the junior sister I always doted on, thought I wasn't generous enough. "Kai, why are you so stingy? Leo is about to be sacrificed. It's just a spirit fox. What's there to be attached to?" I glanced at her coldly. In my past life she had said the same thing, and without waiting for my consent, she tore Bai from my hands. By the time I rushed to get Bai back, I found only his bloodied corpse. Leo hid behind Mira, timidly muttering, "Sorry. I thought spirit foxes had 9 lives, Kai. I just wanted to see." But I never expected that Mira, always on his side, quickly comforted him gently. "Don't be afraid, it's just a beast. Kai isn't the petty type. He won't blame you." Bai's bloody, pitiful state surfaced in my mind again. My eyes turned colder as I looked at him. Had he forgotten that Bai had sacrificed his own life more than once to save Leo's? Yet in his words, Bai had become a disposable beast. I looked at him and smiled coldly. "Right, Leo is about to be sacrificed. He just wants a spirit pet." Speaking of spirit pets, how could Bai compare to Mira's Aurelius? After all, that's a rare spirit beast born only once every 1,000 years. I'm sure Mira wouldn't be stingy, and would gladly give Aurelius to Leo, isn't that right? The moment I said it, I saw Mira's face turn paler and paler. Leo lit up with delight at the mention of Aurelius. "Mira, would you really give me Aurelius?" he asked, gazing at her eagerly. "A 500-year spirit fox versus a rare spirit beast born once every 1,000 years? Even a fool would choose the latter." I smiled, watching Mira, whose face had gone deathly pale. She stammered, her eyes darting, then looked up at me, and her expression suddenly brightened. She hurriedly explained, "Leo, it's not that I won't give Aurelius to you, but Aurelius was found for me by Kai, at the cost of his own blood. I can't betray Kai's hard-won effort by casually giving Aurelius away." I smirked. So she still remembered. This Aurelius was found through countless hardships, for her. In my past life, because her spirit root was naturally weak, cultivating was 100 times more painful for her than for others. I couldn't bear to see her suffer, so I poured in enormous effort, even sacrificing 2 of Bai's lives, just to find her this Aurelius. With Aurelius's energy to draw on, her progress was rapid. Soon, she became one of the top cultivators in the Azure Cloud Sect. And how did she repay me now? If I could give Aurelius, I could just as easily take it back. I raised my eyes and swept a cold glance over her. "You worry too much, Mira. Giving Aurelius to Leo, why would I ever object?" Mira's gaze froze. I brushed past her and turned to Leo, whose eyes burned with anticipation. "Since that's the case, I'll decide it. Aurelius goes to Leo." At these words, wild joy erupted in Leo's eyes, while Mira's face turned deathly white, staring at me blankly, her expression full of disbelief. I smiled coldly. "Let's see. Without Aurelius's power to support her, with her naturally deficient spirit root alone, how would she ever hold her place in the sect? I returned with Bai to the peak where I lived. Looking at my home, my mind flashed back to my past life, right before death, locked away in the woodshed. That scene. In my past life, Leo had casually mentioned wanting my peak, and Master Yura had waved a hand and ordered me to move out, without even a single word asking my consent. After they drained my energy and gutted my golden core, my body was worse off than a mortal's, yet no one felt sorry for me. No one pitied me. They left me to fend for myself in that freezing woodshed. But I had once been the senior disciple everyone in the Azure Cloud Sect admired. Back then, Master Yura loved me, and my fellow disciples respected me, because I possessed the sacred root, a rare cultivation genius the world seldom sees, and the one most gifted at finding spirit herbs. In my past life, without holding anything back, I gave them a whole pile of rare, hard-to-find spirit herbs, all of it. And how did they repay me? The thought of being thrown into the demon's pit, my body devoured to the bone, washed over me again. I slowly clenched my fists. Now I felt nothing for them but boundless hatred. Bai seemed to sense something. He stepped forward and gently tugged at my sleeve. I pulled the hatred back from my eyes and gently stroked his head. Don't worry, Bai. This time, I will protect you. Bai blinked slightly and nuzzled his head gently against me. I laughed softly. This was Bai's way of comforting me. In this Azure Cloud Sect, Bai was the only one truly good to me. I turned to look at the rare spirit herbs across the peak. A slow smile curved my lips. The day was coming soon. They had their eyes set on this entire peak of herbs, but why should I hand it all over for free? Using my power, I pulled up every single herb on the mountain by its roots, not one left behind. Then I took Bai and all the herbs down the mountain. But when I returned to the peak, I found it crowded with people, every one of them scowling. The moment Mira saw me, she dropped all pretense of composure and shouted, "Kai, where are the herbs?" I glanced at her lazily. The herbs? I pulled them all up. Everyone present froze. He'd actually pulled up every last herb? How were they supposed to advance their power now? Mira looked furious, her eyes almost red with rage. Kai, how could you hoard all these herbs for yourself? I glanced at her flatly, cold amusement in my eyes. So, she was finally panicking. No wonder, seeing how her spiritual energy kept growing weaker. Without Aurelius's support, she was nothing but a wasted spirit root. I used to spoil her, always giving her the best herbs first. But now, the weaker she became, the happier it made me. I looked up and met her eyes directly. Can't I decide what to do with my own things? Every single herb on this mountain. Didn't I find every one of them myself, through great hardship? Whatever I choose to do with them, do I need your approval? She froze, her face flushing red. I was just worried for Leo's sake. Beside her, Leo lowered his head, looking on the verge of tears. Kai, if you don't want to give me the peak, I won't force you. But why did you have to pull up every single herb? You know how important these herbs are to everyone. Seeing his wronged expression, Sarah, standing beside him, felt a flash of pity in her eyes. She glared at me angrily. Kai, you've truly gone too far this time. You know Leo is about to be sacrificed. All he wants is to spend his final days looking at these herbs a little more. Master Yura already agreed to give your peak to him, yet now you've torn out every herb on the whole mountain. I am truly disappointed in you. I glanced at her coldly. So this was my fiancée. In my past life, betrothed by Master Yura's arrangement, I gave her my whole heart, showering her with every rare treasure I could find. If she so much as scolded me once, I would be devastated for days. Let alone something like this, publicly accusing me in front of everyone. In my past life, I would have felt like the sky was falling. But now, I only feel disgust. Seeing her true face right before I died in my past life makes me feel endlessly grateful now. And now she still wants to act just like before, criticizing me on one hand while squeezing benefits out of me on the other. I smiled coldly. Her scheming had badly misfired. It's just acting, isn't it? Anyone can do that. I gave her a wronged look. Sarah, even you see me this way? Didn't you say these herbs were too precious to be left wasting away on my peak? The moment I said it, everyone turned to look at her, their eyes filled with questions. Sarah's face turned livid. She gritted her teeth and glared at me. I did say that, but I meant I understand. I understand completely, I said, raising my sleeve to dab at the corner of my eye. It's fine if everyone misunderstands me, as long as you understand, Sarah. I only did it because I listened to you. That's why I pulled up every herb on this mountain. A terrible silence fell over the crowd. Sarah's expression grew uglier by the second. Sarah, Mira was the first to lose her patience, glaring at her with intense displeasure. You knew exactly how important these herbs were to everyone, yet you still told Kai to pull them all up. Why would you do that? Could it be because of the grand trial in a few days? The moment she said it, everyone snapped to realization as if struck by lightning. Right, the grand trial was coming soon. For Sarah to act like this was truly unkind. In an instant, Sarah, once so admired, became a selfish villain everyone despised. Beside her, Leo, too, looked at her with disappointment. Sarah, was it really you? Of course not! Her face turned ashen, and she glared at me with pure resentment, her eyes nearly blazing with fury. Kai, when I said it was a waste for the herbs to sit only on your peak, I meant for you to share them with everyone. I never said to pull them all up. I put on a puzzled expression, looking at her in confusion. But didn't you say, Sarah, that if you took first place at the grand trial, you'd give me the jade sword, the trial's prize, as our betrothal gift? But you were worried the others might surpass you in strength. I let my words trail off perfectly, leaving the rest to everyone's imagination. Watching her surrounded by the crowd, unable to defend herself, I let out a cold laugh. In my past life, she used me time and again to boost her own fame and standing, yet kicked me while I was down whenever I was misjudged by others. Now it was her turn to taste being despised. A moment later, a voice cut in, ill-timed. Kai, so where exactly are these herbs now? I looked up to see Leo staring intently at me. I lowered my eyes and spoke slowly. The herbs went where they belonged. He pressed on. Where is that? I looked at him, asking as if in passing. Leo, you have no spirit root. Do you want these herbs too? He paused briefly, his eyes reddening at once. Kai, I'm about to be sacrificed. What use would herbs be to me? I only wanted in my final days to take one more look at the world's rare herbs. After all, I'll never see them again. I let out a small breath, as if relieved. Then I'm relieved. I thought you wanted, before your sacrifice, to experience what it feels like to have spiritual energy. That wouldn't have been impossible, actually. Among those herbs, there was one that, combined with Aurelius's power, could actually grow a spirit root. Lit up instantly, fixed intently on me. It could really grow a spirit root? I already have Aurelius now. I looked at him, my face full of regret. It could, yes, but the herbs are gone now. If I'd known you wished for this, I would have saved it for you. I shook my head with feigned regret. So where exactly did the herbs go? He suddenly raised his voice, his expression impatient. Just as I was about to answer, I suddenly saw a disciple rushing up from the base of the mountain. Sarah! Sarah! A crowd of mortals has suddenly arrived at the foot of the mountain, asking specifically for Kai. The crowd, mid-argument, fell suddenly silent and turned to look at me. Sarah, who had just gained a moment's respite, glared at me with eyes gone red, a look that seemed like it wanted to skin me alive. I didn't bother to look at her and flew straight toward the sect gate. When I arrived at the gate, I found a crowd of people kneeling densely on the ground. My gaze fell on the one in white leading them. Since my rebirth, this was the first time I had seen Master Yura. She still looked as serene and elegant as ever, but I would never forget how she had driven a sword through my chest, carving out my golden core without a trace of remorse. More importantly, it was her own hands that threw me into the demon's pit, leaving me with these cold final words. This is your fate, Kai. If you must blame someone, blame yourself for meddling. My heart clenched sharply. I slowly raised my hand to my chest. The agony of my body and soul being torn apart still felt as vivid as before. Snapping back to the present, I looked again at Master Yura, who seemed so serene and dignified, and my eyes filled with hatred. Please rise. There's no need to kneel. The sect's disciples scrambled to urge the kneeling mortals to stand, but they only shook their heads. We must see Immortal Kai. Sarah, arriving just then, heard this, and immediately began blaming me without asking any questions. Kai, look at the trouble you've caused, shaming the Azure Cloud Sect for nothing. I glanced at her flatly. Her indignant expression wasn't fake. She was just venting all her earlier anger onto me. Right behind her, Mira chimed in on cue. Kai, this really is your fault this time. Why do you keep causing trouble for the sect? Right, Kai, pulling up all the herbs was one thing, but now people have come knocking too? Leo added right after her, his tone laced with blame. The three of them watched me like they were enjoying a show. Who says Immortal Kai caused any trouble? We came to thank Immortal Kai for saving our lives. The kneeling mortals looked at the three with clear displeasure. Thanks to the elixirs Immortal Kai gave us, our families were able to survive. Why would someone as good as Immortal Kai be blamed by all of you like this? The three of them turned pale, especially Sarah. Leo's lips trembled as he spoke. What are you saying? Look, it's Immortal Kai. They didn't so much as glance at the three of them, but got up excitedly at once and ran toward me. Immortal Kai, thank you for your elixir. My husband has fully recovered. Immortal Kai, my poor child is no longer crippled. He can walk again. Thank you so much. Immortal Kai, I can see again with my eyes. I can finally take the Imperial exam. I smiled gently at them. There's no need for thanks. This is simply what a cultivator ought to do. No, Immortal Kai, you don't realize. Not every cultivator has such a kind heart. That's right, Immortal Kai. If you're ever wronged in the sect, come down the mountain with us. You'd be welcome. Yes, we'll build you a shrine at the foot of the mountain. I glanced past the crowd toward the three of them and saw their faces had gone pale, their eyes full of disbelief. After persuading the crowd to head back down, Master Yura called everyone over. Kai, so it was you who gave the herbs to these mortals. She looked down at me from above, her deep, unfathomable gaze locked firmly on me. I lifted my head and met her eyes directly. Master, haven't you always taught us that cultivators must hold kindness in their hearts? Seeing their suffering through birth, aging, sickness, and death, I found it pitiable, so I gave them the herbs I'd gathered in my daily travels. Was that wrong? Mira beside her was the first to lose patience. But these herbs were meant for the fellow disciples. Standing beside her, Leo stepped in to smooth things over. What Mira means is, A mortal's body might not be able to withstand such potent herbal energy, right? Mira caught on immediately, nodding quickly. Yes, that's exactly what I meant. I turned to look at Sarah, who had been staring at me all along. Do you think the same way, Sarah? She stepped forward slowly, shielding Leo in front of her, and swept a cold glance at me. Of course! Don't you know that a mortal's body, if suddenly overwhelmed with such abundant spiritual energy, could easily be destroyed and die? Leo hid behind her, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. I looked up and swept my eyes over them. A truth you all understand. Do you think I wouldn't know it too? When I gave them the herbs, I naturally reduced the herbs' potency. Mira, flustered, blurted out without thinking. You actually wasted the herbs like that? I turned to look at her. Why would you say that, Mira? Herbs exist to save lives in the first place. Would using them to boost your own power really matter more than saving a life? I didn't mean, all right, enough. Master Yura, seated above, looked at me and spoke slowly. Kai, giving herbs to mortals this time, saving their lives, is commendable. But in the future you should give your fellow disciples advance notice to avoid any unnecessary misunderstandings. I raised an eyebrow lightly. As you say, Master. By the way, Leo, you asked Master Yura earlier for my peak and she agreed to it. Since my peak is bare now, without a single plant left, if you don't mind, I'll hand it over to you, Leo. You've always lived on that peak, Kai. There's no need to give it to me. It's my fault too. No one wants to set foot on this ruined peak of mine now anyway. If you want herbs, Leo, you can just ask Sarah for some. I gave Sarah plenty of herbs before, and she planted them all on her own peak. Though it's missing that one herb that could help grow a spirit root, there are still plenty of rare herbs there. More than enough to satisfy your wish, Leo, to experience a taste of spiritual energy. As I spoke, I saw Sarah's face darken instantly. Leo's eyes lit up, gazing at her with hope. Sarah, are you really willing to give me your herbs? Sarah's face turned livid, and she glared at me fiercely, forcing out the words through gritted teeth. Of course I am. Watching her humiliated expression, I smiled. Weren't you the one who adored Leo most? Wasn't he all you ever cared about? So why does giving up a few herbs now feel so unwilling for you? In the days that followed, 3 things happened in the Azure Cloud Sect. First, Mira's rare spirit beast, Aurelius, died. Second, the herbs on Sarah's peak vanished. Third, more disciples went missing from the sect. Word was, Mira had been so furious she broke ties with Leo on the spot, and Sarah had stopped shielding him at every turn as well. When Bai told me all this, I let out a mocking laugh. With only 3 days left before the grand trial, one of them had lost her spirit beast, and the other had lost her herbs. No wonder they were anxious. In my past life I put them first in everything, always thinking of them, yet in the end, all I got was a miserable death. Heaven took pity on me, and gave me the chance to start over. This time, at the grand trial, I would not only claim first place, but also return every wound they inflicted on me in my past life, 100, 1,000 times over. As for the disappearing disciples, this wasn't the first time it had happened. In recent years, disciples had gone missing from the sect again and again. Even the former sect leader, Elder Roran, had died mysteriously, his body never found. I lowered my eyes. Something wasn't right within the sect. I needed to speed up my cultivation. But I had still underestimated just how shameless these two could be. Mira came to me on her own, dropping to her knees with a thud, sobbing with tears, and streaming with regret. Kai, I was wrong. I shouldn't have targeted you over and over for Leo's sake. Please, Kai, help me. I know you must have a way to bring Aurelius back to life, don't you? From now on I'll only listen to you. I'll never favor Leo again. I looked down at her, my mind drifting back to my past life, to how coldly she'd watched Bai being tortured to death, utterly indifferent. I'd once desperately demanded to know why she hadn't protected Bai, and what had she said? She said, Bai was just a beast, dead is dead. Why ruin our relationship over an animal? I looked at her and spoke, slowly. Why bother now, Mira? Aurelius, after all, is just a beast. If it's dead, it's dead. Why should an animal affect the bond between you and Leo? She froze instantly, staring at me blankly, her lips parting, but no words came out. Kai. I looked at her, shaking my head with a sigh. What a shame, really. With Aurelius's power, Mira, you could have at least competed for a decent rank at the trial, but now your spiritual energy is nothing but a wasted spirit root. You're barely even qualified to enter the trial anymore, let alone hope to place well in it. That's pure fantasy. I walked past her and headed straight out, only to run into another person I had no wish to see. Sarah walked toward me, her face full of smiles. Kai, are you free today? We haven't spent time alone together in so long. I looked at her smiling face before me, and instantly, what came to mind was her disdainful face from my past life, when she said, Kai, you fall short of Leo in every way. I never liked you to begin with. Now that you're a ruined man, you're not worthy of me anymore. Our engagement is over. She had also said, Kai, the greatest stain of my life is having ever been engaged to you. Looking now at this face plastered with fawning smiles, I only felt disgust. I don't have time. I turned away coldly after I said it. Wait, Kai! She hurried in front of me, holding out a sword in an attempt to please me. You've always been attached to this sword, haven't you? I got it back from Leo for you. I glanced down at the sword in her hand, letting out a cold snort. After Leo had been chosen as the heaven's offering before, he said he wanted my spirit sword, and she, without so much as asking me, had simply torn it from my hands. In her eyes, as long as Leo wanted something, it was fine to just take it. But she'd forgotten. This spirit sword had been Master Yura's betrothal gift to the two of us years ago. In my past life, I treasured it for the sake of that bond. But now, that bond had long since been thrown to the dogs. This too only made me feel sick. I glanced at it once, then looked away. I don't want it anymore. She blinked in surprise. You don't want it? But this sword is the symbol of our engagement. I looked at her coldly. I don't want this engagement either. The moment I said it, her pupils shrank sharply, her face full of disbelief. Kai, what did you just say? I looked up at her and said, word by word, we are ending the engagement. She stood frozen in place, stunned. That's impossible, Kai. You must just be speaking out of anger, right? She panicked and grabbed my sleeve, nearly pleading. I know these past few days I've been protecting Leo and you're upset, but that's only because he's about to be sacrificed. That's why I've been kind to him. The one I'm engaged to is you. The one who will be my Tao companion in the future will only ever be you. If you give me a few more herbs, boosting my spiritual energy, and I take first place at the grand trial, I'll petition Master Yura to move our wedding date up. Will that work? I shook her off with open disgust on my face. In my past life, I truly must have been blind, used over and over by someone like her without even realizing it. Now, the more I looked at her, the sicker I felt. I unleashed a spell at her. She couldn't withstand it and was forced to stumble backward. I smiled coldly. With your current strength, you think you can win first place at the trial? Do you even qualify? She froze, staring at me in shock. You've already reached the Tier 2 Golden Core? Yes, before, for the sake of her pride, I had hidden my strength and yielded to her at every turn, even giving her the first pick of every herb I found. Living this life again, why should I care about her feelings anymore? What belongs to me, I will take back, every last bit of it. I looked at her, my gaze resolute. I will end this engagement. And I will win first place at the trial myself. On the day of the grand trial, Master Yura, clad in white, sat in the seat of honor. Leo, chosen for the sacrifice, seated beside her. All the disciples were eager and ready, each hoping to prove themselves at the trial. Off to the side, Sarah and Mira shot me venomous glances, as if they wanted to swallow me whole. Ever since that day they hadn't given up, coming to me repeatedly, begging for herbs, but I had refused to see either of them each time. Now, it seemed, they had come to truly hate me. The written test began. Mira, with her wasted spirit root, couldn't even make it through the very first round, and was kicked out of the arena on the spot. With her face swollen and bruised, she glared at me with a twisted expression. This is your fault, why wouldn't you give me herbs? I glanced at her. Useless is useless. With her, in this pathetic state, even the finest elixir would have been wasted on her. Within 2 years, most likely, she would be eliminated from the sect and driven off the mountain. As for Sarah, something seemed off. She had won several rounds in a row, making it all the way to the finals. Her own spiritual energy without any herbal boost, while it wasn't impossible for her to reach the finals, it certainly shouldn't have been this effortless. And now, her spiritual energy still seemed remarkably abundant. Something was definitely wrong. In the next round, I was matched against her. She glared at me with resentment. Kai, if you apologize to me, I might still forgive you. I let out a cold snort. Ridiculous. She glared at me viciously. Then don't blame me for showing no mercy. Her first strike was already a killing blow. I smiled coldly and met it head on. Tier 1 Golden Core. My gods, Kai has a Tier 1 Golden Core. A wave of commotion swept through the crowd. With a heavy thud, I kicked Sarah clear off her feet. Her eyes were wide with disbelief. How is this possible? In just 3 short days, how could you go from Tier 2 to breaking through to a Tier 1 Golden Core? What? Kai broke through to Tier 1 in just 3 days? My gods, Kai truly is a genuine cultivation genius. Even Master Yura, seated above, shot up from her seat, looking at me with both shock and delight. Kai, you've truly broken through to Tier 1. With the results of the trial settled, I was surrounded, showered with well wishes from every side. Master Yura held out the jade sword to me. She, always so cold and aloof, now had eyes that couldn't hide their fervor. Kai, you are this trial's champion. The jade sword is yours. You've earned it, rightfully so. The others looked at me with unmistakable envy, while off to the side, Sarah and Mira wore eyes filled with both jealousy and hatred. Kai, you're amazing. Not like me, who has never even seen what a golden core looks like. From behind Master Yura, Leo's aggrieved voice rang out right on cue. I'm about to be sacrificed soon, and yet I've never even experienced what it feels like to have a golden core. I truly envy you, Kai. With the sacred root, and now a Tier 1 golden core too. If, before my sacrifice, I could just experience having spiritual energy and a golden core like yours, I could die without regret. The moment he said it, dead silence fell over the crowd. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances. Normally, whatever Leo wanted, everyone mindful of his coming sacrifice would try their best to give him. But now, in front of everyone, He was openly asking for my spiritual energy and golden core. What spiritual energy and a tier 1 golden core meant to a cultivator needed no explanation. Who would ever be willing to give these up? Since Leo wants it and Kai is so good-hearted, surely he'll give it to him. Mira beside her watched me with hostile eyes, her tone dripping with malicious glee. Sarah, still smarting from being kicked off the stage, glared at me viciously. Leo is about to be sacrificed. Surely, Kai, you won't deny him even this small wish? I slowly raised my eyes to look at Master Yura before me. Do you feel the same way, Master? Master Yura's deep, unfathomable eyes regarded me. After a long moment, she finally spoke slowly. Kai, you've always been righteous. Now that Leo is about to be sacrificed, it's just one golden core he wants. Why not give it to him? I laughed loudly. In my past life, she'd said exactly the same thing, and then, without a care for whether I lived or died, drove a sword straight through my chest, cutting me open alive to carve out my golden core. I had once believed she loved me so much that even if she truly took my golden core, she still wouldn't abandon me. But in the end, it was her own hands that threw me into the demon's pit. She had been so desperate to see me dead, all because I had discovered her secret. For all these years, her extraordinary spiritual power had all been stolen illegally. The disciples who had vanished from the sect without a trace hadn't actually gone missing. Their spiritual energy had been stolen by her. She was nothing but a devil wearing a mask of false virtue. There was no such thing as a sacrifice to heaven. All of this was nothing but a scheme cooked up by her and Leo together. Their goal was to steal the spiritual energy of the sect's disciples to strengthen her own power. Such a shameless person, and yet she occupied the seat of master of the Azure Cloud Sect. The thought of the reverence and admiration I once held for her now only filled me with utter disgust. Kai, are you unwilling? Leo, right on cue, let his eyes well up with tears, gazing at me with a tearful, pleading look. If you truly won't do it, I won't force you. Let me go to my sacrifice with nothing but regret then. He covered his face and wept. Everyone who saw it felt a pang of pity. I looked at him calmly. Since you want a golden core, Leo, of course I should give you one. He froze instantly, his eyes flashing with overwhelming excitement. You're really willing to give me your golden core? I smiled slowly. Speaking of golden cores, compared to Master Yura, mine is truly nothing worth mentioning. If you really want to experience the power of a golden core, Leo, Master Yura's core is surely the one that best fits what you want. I'm sure Master would be more than happy to grant such a small wish of yours, isn't that right, Master? Everyone froze on the spot, never expecting I would say such a thing. Master Yura's face darkened instantly, while Leo's face filled with panic. How could I dare ask for Master's golden core? Kai, don't joke around like this. If you don't want to give me your golden core, that's fine. But why drag Master into this? I turned and fixed him with a cold stare. Is that so? When you and Master joined forces to torture and kill sect disciples, stealing their spiritual energy, did you ever once consider that these disciples were innocent? My words landed like a thunderclap, sending the crowd into an uproar. What? Master Yura torturing sect disciples to death? How could that be possible? But thinking it over carefully, every time a disciple went missing, Master Yura had always been in secluded cultivation, with only Leo, who had no spirit root, by her side. That was, in fact, more than a little suspicious. More and more doubtful eyes turned toward Master Yura. Master Yura, who had always prided herself on her pure reputation, finally lost her composure. She glared at me fiercely. Kai, slandering me is one thing, but claiming I slaughtered sect disciples, if Leo hadn't seen it with his own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. I've given you chance after chance, and now you're the one turning the tables on me. Fine, very well, it's time your crimes were made known to all. Her words shook the crowd's already hesitant belief even further. What was going on? Who were they supposed to believe? Sarah stepped forward, sneering at me. Kai, I never imagined you could be this vicious, actually daring to slander Master Yura. Then explain this. How in such a short time did you manage to reach a Tier 1 golden core? Even a cultivation genius couldn't possibly, in just 3 days, break through from Tier 2 to Tier 1. Unless it's true that you stole other disciples' spiritual energy yourself. Seeing public opinion turning entirely against me, a flicker of satisfaction crossed Master Yura's eyes. Kai, your crimes are now exposed. You'd best surrender now, before you suffer needless pain. I looked at her, my expression calm. Do you really think you've won, Master? Her expression faltered for a moment, then quickly regained its composure. Things have gone this far. What more do you have to say in your defense? I smiled suddenly. Master, you've always been so meticulous in everything you do. Too bad, though, you trusted Leo far too much, and even the most careful plan has its one overlooked flaw. I turned to look behind me. Elder Roran, come out. A figure slowly emerged from behind. The moment Master Yura saw him, her face changed completely. Roran, how is this possible? Elder Roran walked forward step by step, his eyes growing colder and colder as he looked at her. Did you never expect this, Yura? That I wasn't dead after all? Everyone present stood frozen, stunned into silence. The former sect leader, Elder Roran, wasn't he dead long ago? How could he be alive again? Elder Roran fixed her with a cold stare. Back then, you tricked me into going to the rear mountain, and stole my spiritual energy while I was unprepared, Afterward, you falsely claimed I'd been killed by demonic forces, and threw me into the demon's pit. If Kai hadn't saved me, I truly would have died. Master Yura glared at me viciously. So it was you, ruining my plans. With things having gone this far, she no longer bothered to keep up the act. I smiled coldly. In my past life she had thrown me into the demon's pit the same way, and there I had encountered Elder Roran's spirit and learned the truth. Living this life again, I had already gone earlier with a mountain's worth of rare herbs to save Elder Roran. At the time his soul had been scattered, and 1 moment later it would have been too late. I had helped him rebuild his body, all so that today I could expose Master Yura's scheme before everyone. Now that the truth was out, I looked at her coldly. There was nowhere left for her to run. Master Yura, panicking, tried to flee, but Elder Roran had already joined forces with other sects to surround the Azure Cloud Sect completely, leaving her no way to escape. Elder Roran severed her tendons and bones, and finally drove a sword into her chest. Scattered spiritual energy drifted out from her body. I watched this energy in silence. All of it belonged to the disciples she had ruthlessly killed. Now that vengeance had been served, they could finally rest in peace. Kai, it was all Master Yura's doing. She made me do it. I was just used by her too. Please spare me, I beg you. Leo dropped to his knees with a thud, clutching desperately at my legs, begging. I glanced down at him. When you helped her steal your fellow disciples' energy, did you ever think about the consequences? Compared to you, weren't they far more innocent? He froze. But I'm the one fated for the sacrifice. Only I can save all of you. Spare me, and I'll go through with the sacrifice. I laughed coldly. A lie told so many times even you started believing it. There was never any so-called sacrifice that could protect the sect. It was just a cover story you two used to swindle spirit pets and herbs. With a resounding crack, the scattered spiritual energy suddenly gathered together and slammed down hard onto him. He couldn't withstand it, and coughed up a mouthful of blood. The energy showed him no mercy, striking him again and again until he was left unrecognizable. Being a mortal without any spirit root, he stopped breathing soon after. I calmly looked away. Good and evil are always repaid in kind. Kai, before, I was deceived by Leo and Master Yura. Please forgive me, won't you? Sarah, beside me, approached with tearful eyes, pleading in a fawning tone for mercy. I glanced at her coldly, the memories of my past life still vivid before me. Sarah, when you accepted the spiritual energy Master Yura gave you, knowing full well of her wrongdoing, you still chose to cover for her completely. Did you really think no one would ever find out? She froze in shock, stunned in place, her lips trembling. You knew all along? Back at the match earlier, the moment I noticed your strength had sharply increased, I already suspected. For your energy to grow so much in so short a time, there was only one explanation. I turned to look at Elder Roran. Elder Roran, I leave her to you. Elder Roran nodded and ordered his men to destroy her spiritual energy, then sever the tendons in her hands and feet before throwing her off the mountain, leaving her to fend for herself. Now she truly was worse off than a ruined cripple. With a heavy thud, Mira behind me dropped hard to her knees, begging for my forgiveness. Kai, I was wrong. I shouldn't have trusted them. From now on, I'll do exactly as you say. I didn't even look at her. With no spirit root left, she had no chance of remaining in the Azure Cloud Sect any longer. She was nothing but a waste. Afterward, Elder Roran entrusted the Azure Cloud Sect to my care. Once, while traveling down the mountain, I came across a female beggar with broken hands and feet, muttering that she had once been a senior disciple of the Azure Cloud Sect. Another beggar, gaunt and bony, spat at her viciously. You worthless thing, you can't even beg properly. A group of fierce, menacing figures rushed out behind them, raining down blows on the two of them, until they were beaten until their last breath. Only then did I leave. A cause sown in a past life, a fruit reaped in this one. All of it was nothing more than what they deserved. And so, I led the disciples of the Azure Cloud Sect to root out evil and uphold good. 100 years later, I ascended to immortality, my virtue and deeds fulled.